Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. It's amazing how so many people can reach seemingly adulthood without ever hearing no until they're in a public place. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. But I wanted that big bottle of olive oil. This happened a few years ago, but I'm reminded of it every time I buy olive oil. I live a few blocks from a grocery store, so I'll text my family before I leave from work and ask if anyone needs me to pick something up. Wife, son, and daughter send me their answers, which included that we were out of olive oil. The list is small, so I just grab a basket as I enter the store. After getting everything else on my short list, I go looking for the olive oil. This is where things get weird. On the very top shelf, the store's offering a large bottle at a ridiculously low price, so I reach up and grab one. I'm a little over 6 feet tall with long arms, and it was a bit of a stretch for me. After placing the bottle in my basket, I hear from behind me in a very soft and polite voice, "Excuse me, young man." Now, I was just shy of 50 at the time, and it had been a long time since anyone had called me a young man, so at first I thought the person was talking to someone else. As I turned around, I see someone's tiny grandma, or great-grandma, looking up at me and smiling. She was a tiny little thing, not quite 5 feet tall. And then she said, "I saw that you were able to reach that bottle, and I was just wondering if you could see if there are any more left." I told her that there was one more left, then asked if she'd like me to get it down for her. She said, "Yes, please." So I grabbed the last bottle and handed it to her. She said that she'd seen what a wonderful deal it was, but there was no way she could have reached it, and then proceeded to thank me profusely. I said it was my pleasure and thought, what a nice little interaction at the end of my day. Then things got weird. As polite grandma lady walks away, from behind me I hear someone say tersely, "Get me one of those bottles." I spin around and a woman is staring at me, so I say, "Excuse me?" She continued, "One of those large bottles of olive oil. Get one down for me." I told her there weren't any more, and then she tried to take the bottle from my basket. I jerked the basket away and said, "WTH do you think you're doing?" She told me that I should give her mine since I could just go in the back and look for more. Now, I'm dressed in khakis and a button-down dress shirt, typical middle-aged man in business casual, nothing like the employees at the store, so I'm confused. Just as I'm about to say something she really won't like, one of the managers comes out of the back and heads towards the front of the store through this aisle. He and I know each other in passing since I'm in the store a lot, usually exchange a head nod, a smile, and a "how's your day?" She immediately latched onto him and said, "Your employee swore at me and refused to give me the last big bottle of olive oil." He looked at me, looked at my basket, then looked back at me with a questioning look on his face. I just shook my head and shrugged my shoulders. He politely told her I wasn't an employee. She said, "But he got a bottle down for someone else." He looked at me, I nodded, and he said, "Well, that was awfully nice of him." She immediately came back with, "Well, make him give me his bottle." He looked at me just as confused as I felt, and at this point, I was just happy to not be alone in this twilight zone. He told me that he'd take care of this and that I was free to go, which did not go over well with her, but hey, I was free. Sometimes I can still hear her B-word tone as I walked away. "But I wanted that big bottle of olive oil." A couple of things came of this. I always smile when I think of polite grandma lady, and if the manager ever sees me in the store with olive oil in my basket/cart, he throws his hands up in an exaggerated manner and nopes out very quickly. And our second story. Yell at me to speed up at 6 a.m.? Watch as I slow time. This happened back in my college years when I was a cashier at the grocery store. It was early one morning. We'd just opened about 15 minutes prior, so there were only 2 registers open, me and the self-checkout. My first customer of the day is a sweet elderly lady buying about 20 items. She and I are chit-chatting about the day when customer number 2 rushes up behind her with some cereal and milk. Before I can blink, he says, "Hurry it up. Some people have real jobs to get to." Honestly, it didn't faze me. I kindly said, "If you're in such a rush, sir, the self-checkout's also open." Number 2 now starts carrying on about how self-check is stealing good jobs. Funny, because here he just told me I don't have a real job, but I digress. Sweet elderly lady's now paying and I'm bagging her groceries. Number 2 then shouts, "Did you not hear me tell you to go faster, C-word?" Now I stop. My elderly lady looks at me and says, "Oh, honey, you do what you have to." I silently press the manager button and then I begin slowly bagging my customers' items. And when I say slowly, I mean I move my hand about half an inch per second. My sweet elderly lady begins to giggle. Number 2 gets irate and tosses his Wheaties at my head right as my manager rounds the corner, all while screaming obscenities at me. My boss doesn't hesitate. She's seen and heard all. She tells number 2 to leave. Suddenly, number 2's all apologies and asking if he can please just buy his items from the boss. She firmly tells him no and to leave. Number 2 then throws his milk on the ground and stomps out. My sweet elderly lady and I finished up our transaction, laughing. Never saw number 2 again. And our last story. The HOA is suing us and neighbors are complaining about house guests. In 2019, we built a brand new home with a pool in a nice upscale community near a resort corridor. In summer 2020, we received a license from City to operate a short-term rental. Prior to seeking our license, we sought advice from an attorney if our CCRs would allow us to do so without violating any of the covenants, and her assessment was that the CCRs did not have a specific clause banning such transient residential use and only a clause that stated you cannot lease your property for less than 365 days. Her interpretation of our CCRs was that short-term use is not leasing because these guests have no tenant or occupancy rights, and the 365-day clause was for long-term rental use, so we proceeded with our license and the city approved it. The home is our primary residence, and we only offered it occasionally at a rate of $985 to $1,200 per night. It was used 9 times in 2020 as a STR. We had only 5-star reviews and had very nice families use our home. Our city has very strict STR rules and regulations, and we had to ensure we adhered to all of the requirements, including indoor and outdoor noise monitors, occupancy restrictions, etc. We had a very long list of house rules, and we absolutely prohibited any party behaviors. We wanted to be cognizant of our neighbors, and never once did we have a noise complaint, and all our guests complied with the quiet hours mandated by city ordinance. We have 2 very vocal neighbors who complained to our HOA and also incited action from other neighbors on our neighborhood Facebook group, the Not in My Backyards. In August, we were mailed a cease and desist letter from the HOA attorney to remove our listing from Airbnb. We responded to the attorney that we would remove our listing, but that we did not believe we were in violation of our CCRs. We did remove our listing, and shortly thereafter, we were served with a violation notice for a violation hearing in early September. We attended the violation hearing, providing evidence that none of the allegations of a party house or people parking up and down the street were true, and that we were operating within the restrictions of the city ordinances. We have a board consisting of only 3 people, and not one of them spoke during the hearing. The HOA community manager barely spoke, and it was the HOA attorney who was a total a-hole to us. The hearing lasted about 15 minutes, and we were told we'd be sent a letter within 10 days on the HOA board decision, the decision whether or not to fine us. This part was not very clear, and the violation letter indicated we could be liable for fines of up to blank dollars. It was literally a blank line. We never received any response from the HOA board, and in late October, I noticed that our HOA account statement showed a fine balance of $3,800. I emailed the HOA community manager twice about the fines and why we hadn't heard anything from the HOA board regarding the outcome of the hearing. Clearly, they decided to fine us. I never received a response from the HOA community manager. We did discover during the lawsuit process that the HOA board decided to fine us $100 per day for each day we rented our home. They had no actual evidence of how many days that was, but instead only relied on what the neighbors told them. In mid-December, we were served with a lawsuit seeking an injunction prohibiting us from using our home as an STR, citing immediate and irreparable harm to the community as their main cause of action. We hired a different attorney than the one we consulted with since he specialized in real estate. We've not used our home as a STR since last fall. We have a lot of visitors from Washington and California, The not in my backyards are photographing cars in our driveway and people who were coming and going from our home, primarily during spring break when we had family and friend visitors. We even had a drone fly into our backyard. The harassment's been awful. At the evidentiary hearing for the injunction, we had to provide witness testimony that our guests were in fact personal friends and family members. The HOA attorney provided 2 affidavits from neighbors who were also witnesses at the hearing that our attorney was able to discredit their affidavits as they had no real proof that we were still using our home as an STR. It was their opinion that we were continuing to do so because they witnessed people coming and going with suitcases. That's what people do when they visit from out of town. The fact that we were put in a position of having to prove who our guests were in our home is absolutely astounding to me. It's also astounding to me that our HOA escalated this to a lawsuit based on testimony of 2 people. The HOA community manager testified that it was only 2 complaints. Not a single complaint was ever lodged with our city for noise violations, even though the not in my backyards are labeling our home as a party house. I realize that Airbnb has a bad reputation, and it's pretty much synonymous with party house. Apparently, it's now illegal to enjoy your pool on a Saturday afternoon and listening to music. Other neighbors do it. We still have our noise monitors installed, and again, there was never a noise violation. I just don't understand the hate. We almost always rent vacation homes when we travel, as it's a great way for us to spend time together as family, often multi-generational. We're also going to pursue an action with the real estate ombudsman because the HOA board assessed fines against us illegally and also didn't follow certain other procedural rules regarding the violation hearing. We have a beautiful home and crappy neighbors, and it makes me so sad. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.